Hello.
Hey,
Hello. All right. Sick. There we go. What's up, man? How are you?
pretty good, man. How are you?
Oh, I'm good, man. It's good to see you. It's good to see you. I know we've been trying to get this together, so it's good to finally do it.
Yeah, feeling mutual.
Yeah, yeah. It's good to talk to you. It's good to hang out, man. I've been listening to Outline and Color for a minute, so it's
Oh
good to
yeah,
like
man. Fuck
meet
yeah.
you in person and actually like have a conversation with you.
Yeah. Well, thanks for listening.
Yeah, dude. Cool. So let's just get started. I wanted to ask you, what is it that like got you into music in the first place, and why did you decide, okay, I'm gonna do this as a career?
So like, my dad tried to push like guitar on me really early,
Yeah.
and my dad was like my dad, so I kind of like rejected music for a while. But I went to this like really small elementary junior high, and they required that all sixth graders take band.
Oh, nice.
And when I was in, or like when I was really young, I was in a accident where I like fucked up my lip. So my like dentist and oral surgeon was like, you don't need to be fucking with any wind instruments. So, so like I basically got a doctor's note to play percussion,
Oh,
and
nice.
I ended up like leaving the school being like first chair and like playing for the drum line and shit, and that kind of brought me to like my high school career. I like moved a few miles away. I went to a much bigger school, and I immediately joined like the marching band and like the symphonic band and jazz band and stuff. And ultimately, it just kind of like got out that I played music, and some other guys that like weren't in band but played in like rock bands, metal bands, and shit started like hitting me up and like asking to jam and shit. And once I got a taste of that, it was like much more liberating than like playing in marching band and like getting up at 5 a.m. every morning. And like I loved that, and that's like the foundation of like me as a musician, and where I learned to count and read music and all that stuff. But um I think that like once I started playing shows and stuff, I was just like that's all I really wanted to do. That's where I feel like most alive and like the most myself. So
I
it's
feel
just
that.
like it was less about doing it for a living and more just like whatever it was going to take to keep making that happen, you know?
I like that. I like that mindset, man. A lot of musicians I see don't necessarily have the mindset of like, I just need to keep doing this because I love it so much, you know?
Yeah, it's like the ends always seem to justify the means. Like even sometimes when it's like really bad, it's like in the long scheme, everything always seems to balance out.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you started in Outline and Color, you weren't vocals yet, right? It took you a little bit. So tell me a little bit about your journey in Outline and Color and like how it's come to where you are now.
Yeah, well, we kind of started out like we didn't have a vocalist. It was like CJ, our old guitar player Forrest, who's like the fucking most awesomest dude. Shout out to Forrest.
Hell yeah.
Uh, and myself and Austin, our drummer, and like we were just like making demos and stuff, and we we started auditioning vocalists, and um, I don't know. I've just kind of like always been the guy that's gone where I've needed to go, you know?
Yeah.
And when we first started out, it was like keyboards, and I loved playing keyboards. And then we went out to like showcase for record labels, and they're like, "Where's your bass player?" And we're like, "Oh, we just thought it'd be cool. Like people put keyboards on the track. Why not put bass on the track?" And they were like, "Nah, I don't think so, man. There's something aesthetically unappealing about the stage not being balanced." And we were like, "Oh, word, okay." So then I
Oh,
switched
word.
to bass, and we put the keys on the tracks and stuff. And I've just kind of always gone where I've needed to go, and I've always, even though I've been in like auxiliary capabilities in the past, or positions rather, I've always kind of been like the guy that runs point for the band.
Yeah.
Like I'm the guy that like sets up our tours. I'm the guy that like runs our merch site, like
Yeah.
runs most of the socials, and it's kind of always been that way. And it's not like because I've made it so. It's just like I've just always been the guy that will like step up and do that stuff that nobody else wants to
Yeah.
do. And like we've kind of gone through a lot of shit as a band. Like we've been on a less than awesome record label venture for several years that has has broken a lot of bands that we've seen happen right before our eyes in the past.
Yeah.
We've gone through multiple member changes, and um, last year we got to a point where we were doing these tours that were just like not. We're just kind of taking what we could get because we just book all our own stuff for the most part, and we had like some vehicle failures and just like a lot of shit that was just like very unfortunate. And I think it kind of made a lot of us like kind of like look at what we were doing and evaluate like our passion and stuff. And we got to this point where we were about to do this tour last like early fall, late summer, and it wasn't like one of those tours that was like a make or break like tour for us. It was just something like we planned to be touring to supporting our album or to support our album, and the tour just like came. The time to tour just like came up,
Yeah.
and a week before the tour, our old vocalist Trevor just like hit us up in the Facebook group chat and was like, the band that you guys are touring with is like a trigger for me because like he used to have a problem with like some heavy drugs, and for that reason and other personal reasons he just like couldn't do the tour regardless of what that meant for the future.
Yeah.
So we passed on tours and canceled on tours in the past for like personal problems and issues that with members of the band that weren't necessarily like band issues.
Yeah.
And we kind of decided that like um, because of who we were touring with and some of the favors that had been granted to us with some of the shows that we were playing, we thought that it was a real bad move to cancel the tour.
Yeah.
And that kind of just like led to us determining that we could pull off the set as a four piece. And once we practiced it musically enough and felt like we could pull it off, um, we hit the road, and the shows went really well, like surprisingly well. And but what was really impactful was the offstage aspect. There was just no drama, and there was no, not that like any one member was responsible for drama, but just like the mixture of people that was in the van. There's no drama, there's no ego. There was just like we all wanted to be there. We all wanted to be playing shows, like regardless of how big they were. Like that's just what we wanted to be doing, and we all felt good doing it. So like it was a really like fun experience for us, and that's kind of like why we got into it in the first
Yeah.
place, to do
Yeah.
it, have fun, and that kind of like reinvigorated our passion for like what we were doing. We empirically we've been a band that puts out a record every 2 or 3 years, and
Yeah.
we put out an album last year, and we went and recorded essentially another one, 2 EPs this year, and
Hell yeah.
we're booked to go record again in October just to keep the ball rolling, and
Just keep going, bro.
we're just like it's just something we're really feeling right now, and it's not about like, oh, we have to write as many songs as possible, or like it's nothing like that. It's just like we can't tour, and like this is what we do, like this is who we are, so like this is what we're gonna do.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I feel that, man. Cool. So I two things I wanted to touch on as you were talking about all that. First things first, we'll talk about liking your guys, man. I talk about it a lot on the podcast about how like whenever you're gonna go, whenever you're trying to be a touring band, you have to make sure that you like the members in your band and that you guys get along, because it's so difficult to be on the road. Like you're in a state that you don't know, you're hanging out with all these 4 5 6 guys, whatever, and it's like if there's one bad link, then the entire trip is ruined.
Yeah, you can
um
one person can poison the entire well.
yeah, exactly. Okay, yeah, I just wanted to say that, and then I wanted to ask you a question about you were saying that you were kind of the business guy, you're kind of the leader of the band, you kind of do those things. Um and I wanted to ask you how would you say like a local band, let's say there's a band that hasn't necessarily reached the status of being able to talk to a label or anything like that, and they're trying to like understand how to book shows and understand how to like work with bigger producers. What kind of advice would you give to that band?
Oh man, there's all sorts of advice that I this is like something that I can like really like. I could talk to anybody that is like willing to like
Um,
listen and chat forever.
Heck yeah.
But man, it's just like every band that I see, and my band is totally guilty of it. In the past, especially, every band gets started because they get inspired by another band, you know, or another series of bands or
Yeah.
whatever. And every band comes to the plate really hard, like ripping their influences, like whether it's in their music directly or like in the way that they like try to run their socials or like do their photo shoots or their music videos. Like everything is very like inspired.
Yeah.
And what labels and talent buyers to an extent are really looking for is something that is unique, that has buzz, appeal, and people that are excited about it. And that there's always going to be like, I mean, like, you know, Memphis Mayfire, for instance, there's always going to be like a band like Memphis Mayfire that makes like a really big impact on the scene, like as a whole. And then there's a bunch of bands that are influenced by that sound, you know?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But the ones that are at the very tip top, like there's not like Asking Alexandria doesn't sound like Ice Nine Kills or like Bring Me the Horizon. Like they all have very unique sounds. Be it made that like there's tons of bands underneath them that are influenced by them. The ones that are at the top are very unique, and bands should just like not be afraid to express themselves and do something that might not be what they perceive as, I don't want to say like commercial, but like you what you want when you do something that's like for fans of, you want it to be like these bands inspired us, so if you listen to them maybe you'll like our stuff too, not like you'll like this because we also have like every other band in metalcore, like whatever,
Yeah.
you know, like, and my band's totally guilty of doing stuff like that in the past. Like we've been like we our first couple records we were super vibing on the early Memphis Mayfire stuff, or the early Matty Mullins Memphis Mayfire stuff, and
Yeah.
um you know, like we were definitely guilty of taking influence, but I feel like once we started writing songs that didn't necessarily fit like any sort of cookie cutter or any sort of algorithm or things that we had done in the past. We just started writing stuff that like meant something to us and like that we were excited about. That's when we really started, I feel like, connecting with people.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what the newer bands should just like not be afraid to express themselves. Like I think like the coolest thing ever is when I find a band that has like a crazy sound that I've never heard before, or a crazy sound that's like influenced by a band that nobody really listens to, or like that's really old that nobody listens to, or whatever. Um, and they have like this crazy awesome raw thing going on, and it's authentic, and it's not like it's undiscovered, you know? Like
Yeah.
I found this guy in Tulsa, like Tulsa, Oklahoma, and he's just like a little rapper dude named Jay Hustle, and he's like 5'4", like
Oh,
5'5", like little tiny dude, but he's like really with it, and like he does like this like hip hop stuff, that like R&B kind of stuff that like it's just crazy because he's never really worked with anybody that's like a real producer, you know. It's just like people with a mic and a computer and stuff, and he still puts out this like raw awesome sounding shit. But I'm just like, man, like if you worked with one of the great producers or like somebody that's like on top of their game, like man, it would just be like incredible to see like what would happen, like
yeah.
because it's already there and he doesn't even know it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he's just doing his own thing. Like I can't tell you, like I could tell you some artists he's inspired by, but I can't tell you any artist he sounds like.
Hell yeah. Oh yeah, and that's that to me, that all kind of goes back to like being authentic and like being 100% yourself, and like it's like you said, man, it's okay to take inspiration. It's okay to kind of like to an extent follow the formula or whatever,
Yeah.
but you want to be yourself. You want to put out the music that is unique to you, because the moment you start sounding like everyone else, that's when bands just kind of become stagnant and they start to sound the same. Um, so being you said a little bit earlier that the Outline and Color was kind of guilty of it prior. How did you guys kind of start to get out of that and start to realize that you were doing that?
we did something very fundamentally different with this most recent collection of songs that we've never done before. Every album in the past, we've written songs prior to entering the studio, or and sometimes even completely pre-production, like full albums. And that's always been the way that we do it. And you can almost like capture the moments of like music that we were listening to or vibing to, like when we were making our albums, because that's the way that we wrote them, you know, like it was over time and like through like albums were coming out and we're like, oh, that album's really sick. Like we should do some stuff that's like inspired by that. This stuff we went to the studio on day one with nothing,
Oh,
like
nice.
no songs, just some lyrics like that I had been like tossing around and John had been tossing around for a while. But yeah, we went to the studio with nothing and we worked fresh, like and we wrote like all the instrumentals first and then we started tackling like vocal melody and plugging in lyrics and stuff. But
Yeah.
that was the main like fundamental difference I think that in anything that we've ever done was that everything was just like off the cuff and very like we didn't think about. There's some there were admittedly like sometimes where we would like write a part and go like a couple days later we'd come back and be like, does that sound too much like this band or does that
Yeah.
sound too much like this song or like whatever, and we would tweak stuff as we went along, but everything was just like off the top. Like we weren't like trying to overcomplicate things or like write cryptic messages or
Oh, you lagged.
be like dark or like a character or like anything like that. We just like trying to be real and just like write stuff that we felt could anybody could relate to or like that like anybody has experienced or not necessarily experienced exactly, but like the experience, the feeling, or like the inspiration, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I feel that, man. And so you being vocals, do you write most of the lyrics?
Um, Yeah, I would say most of, but like not like
Okay.
80%, like
Yeah,
maybe like 65, 70%.
I feel that.
Our producer like su- inputs like a surprising amount of like awesome suggestions that we end up taking, and John comes with a surprising amount of really awesome stuff too. But John's like main forte is melody. Like he's just like,
Oh, yeah.
and I write a lot of melody too, but he'll just like I'll write stuff for myself that ends up making it, but sometimes I'll write like ideas that are just like the core or root idea for him, just like or something to inspire his
Yeah.
part or something. And he'll take my idea and just like take it to a level that I didn't even think was like completely possible.
Oh,
So
yeah.
like we definitely have this like cool back and forth thing, and we're not really like trying to upstage each other, we're
Yeah.
trying to like complement each other because we have different timbre and like different, like my voice is like really airy and raspy, and his voice is like very like slick and smooth and buttery, and I don't know. We do stuff cool like on top of each other and separately, and I don't know. It's just like we're not trying to like one up each other. We just
Yeah.
we just sound sick, you know.
Well, yeah, no, I feel that, man. And that's one thing. That's one thing I try to like put in these heads of these local musicians is that like whenever you're in a band with someone, man, you're part of a team. Like you
Yeah,
guys should ultimately try to be making the best product possible that you guys can as a team. And I see it all too often where bands compete with each other.
yeah.
And
On the same team.
yeah, exactly. You're on the same team, man. You're both trying to succeed. Like just help each other grow, man. That's what it's all
Totally.
about. I wanted to ask you what producer are you guys working with for this new one?
So we did this last stuff with Andrew Bayless, and
Oh, okay.
I imagine we'll be working with him for the foreseeable future. But we're flying Joey Bradford from the U's. He's
Oh
coming
yeah,
out to,
yeah.
to co-produce this new stuff
That's
we're
sick.
working on in October.
Hell yeah. I'm excited to hear it, man. Can't wait.
Oh, I'm so stoked.
I'm ready, dude. I'm like thinking about it right now. Cool, man. Okay, so excuse me, sorry.
Oh, no
Um,
worries.
I noticed that you guys are doing some stuff on Billboard and all that. What's that been like for you guys?
It's not our first time on Billboard. Most of our full-length albums have made Billboard, but it is our first time as an EP on Billboard.
Yeah.
And I think that the thing that's been crazy is that like, and I have to keep reminding myself that like we just put out an EP because in my mentality, like, or in my mind rather, we we already recorded all of these songs, and I have to remind myself that they're not all out. So like when I see the streaming numbers, sometimes I'm like, all right, that's good, that's good. But then I'm like, oh fuck, like we still have like 7 songs to put out. You know? But like considering that it's an EP, it's been the largest scale release that we've ever had, and
That's awesome.
since we had like plans of touring and we've toured it many times to support albums in the past, it's kind of like shocking. We definitely had like proper resources to push it and like a really awesome financial partner to help us out, but um, it's been like surprisingly well given the pandemic.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. I'm glad that you guys are still, you know, a lot of bands are struggling right now, so it's good to
Yeah,
see you guys like actually still handling your shit and able to like, you know, overcome this pandemic and stuff.
for sure. I
Um,
mean, I think we're all struggling
yeah,
personally, like we're all going crazy, but
uh,
like as a the streaming numbers are good.
yeah, yeah. No, I feel it, man. We're all kind of like we're stuck inside. We're just, no, I get it, man. I completely understand. But but still, you know, it's good that your streaming numbers are up, and I hope that, you know, as the year goes on and we start to open up the industry again, hopefully everything works out for you guys. I don't see why it
Oh,
wouldn't. I mean, you guys are outlining color. I'm pretty sure you'll be all right.
yeah, I mean, we've definitely. I mean, this is definitely a first for everyone, but like, I just
Yeah,
feel we've made it as a band 10 years. Like, it would take a lot more than what's going on right
yeah,
now to us.
exactly, exactly. You've been doing this for a decade now. This is your life. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
cool, man. Okay, so I was gonna ask you. Speaking of tour, you talked about tour. Tell me a time that you had an experience where like either the show just wasn't ran properly, or like there was some shit that went down, and you're just like, oh man, how do we handle this? How did you guys handle it?
Oh man, there's so many.
Yeah, I'm,
Um,
I'm sure.
let me think of a specific one. We were just like we did like a full band podcast last night, and we're telling some pretty good stories. Oh fuck. Okay. Man, there's been so many cases where we've played shows where just like it's a promoter's first show, or like, oh, okay. We played this one show with like a super enthusiastic promoter. I'm not even gonna drop his name because he's a really awesome dude, and he's actually like kind of come up in the industry since then. But he booked us and this tour package we were on for this like band in Corona, California, and I can't even remember the name of the club, but we get there and it's like mega nice, and like we're on like a, you know, a metalcore package tour, so like venues that have us load in like relatively early for a sound check are super rare, and this band was like come in at like 2 to sound check, and like they get us on stage and like we're sound checking, and they get our monitors like super dialed, like they really cared about it, and like we're just like what the fuck is going on, and um, we were just like hanging out in the parking lot, and like just shortly before there's like a line of people. Like, I mean, I'm not like a huge line, but like there was like 50 to 75 people like in line to come into for the show. Like like the locals had done a good job like pre-selling, and it was like a well advertised show. And right before they open the doors, the venue staff informs the promoter that the venue is 21 plus,
Oh,
and that's like a major problem
yeah.
for
I was gonna say,
and, it was really crazy because the promoter was a good guy, and it wasn't his fault. It was totally the venue. They just like they were expecting it to be like it was like probably like a 500 cap room or something. I think they were expecting it to be like sold out or something, and that would be like sufficient for them for the night to justify being all ages, because they can't sell alcohol when it's all ages.
yeah.
And once they saw the ticket sales or like whatever, they're like, nah, that's not gonna work for us. So they just like pulled the plug on the whole thing.
Oh my
And
god, dude.
yeah, so me and our old guitar player had to like puff up to this like biker dude that ran the club and just like be like, yo, dude, like you're gonna fucking pay us. Like we showed up, we sound checked, like we loaded up, like we've been sitting waiting in the parking lot, like and hanging out, like for the show to start. Like you're gonna pay us. And he was like tweaking out about it and like flipping out. And then finally he was just like, well, how much is your guarantee? And we're like, it's like 250 bucks or something like that. And he was just like, oh, well, okay. Like I thought that it was gonna be like $1,000 or something like that. Like, he just wrote us a check and we left. We're just like, "All right, whatever." We sold some merch, and I think like maybe we whipped out an acoustic guitar in the parking lot or something until they chased us off. But it was hilarious because like they couldn't have done any crazy business that night. Like there was nobody at that bar, and there were like 70 people that probably would have come in and at least bought like fucking water or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's wild.
We definitely like had shows in the UK like when we were like overseas like fall apart on us like while we were over
Oh
there. That
yeah.
was like pretty crazy too. Like we had like legit places to stay, but like there were like several nights where we're like, oh, word, we're not playing a show. We're just like 2,000 miles from home. No big deal. Like, I'm sorry that your grandma died.
Oh.
Like, like,
Just we're here to play. Just let us play.
yeah, just like have your like friend open the door and like we'll play tips or something. Like, it's no big deal. Like, we're just like, I don't know. It was like a very like weird situation because obviously we're like, like we felt for the dude having a real loss in his family allegedly, but like it was like,
Allegedly.
yeah. Well, I mean, we don't know. Like people, like we've definitely dealt with sketchy promoters in the past, but
Yeah.
uh, yeah, that definitely happened to us in the UK. That was super fun,
Yeah. I feel that. Oh geez, we got these beeps going on.
dude. I don't
Nice.
even know how to turn them off.
Cool. Um okay, so crazy tour stories aside, you did talk about merch printing. Do you guys outsource your merch or do you print it yourself?
So I've done most of our printing over the years.
Okay.
There's been definitely times that we've like outsourced when I've been too busy or we've been doing stuff that's like super involved that I can't really get into or I can't it wouldn't like there's certain times where I would rather just pay somebody to do it
Yeah,
than for me to do it, because it's just a lot of work.
I
But
feel
yeah, I print every week. It's kind of like the glue that holds everything together. Like
yeah.
I wouldn't call it my profession because like it's not my favorite thing to do, and I've definitely tried to do other things like to you know make ends meet and stuff, but I've been doing it for like 12 years, so I've
Oh nice.
inevitably like I consider myself to be a professional, and um, I have like a certain um, expertise, I guess. Like there's like
Yeah.
certain print jobs that like I see the design, I'm like, yep, I can fucking kill that, or
Yeah.
nope, don't want to fuck with that. And
Yeah.
I just kind of stick to what I'm really good at. And I like I've actually since the pandemic has kicked in, there's been a lot less touring band business for me, which has always been my bread and butter because I understand the touring logistics and stuff, so it's easy for me to take on an order and a band be like, we need it to be in this state on this date. Can you make that happen? And I'm like, yes, I can make that happen because I know what it takes to make it happen.
Yeah.
So uh, that business has kind of dried up. So I've kind of had to expand my horizons a lot. And Oklahoma has a really booming medical cannabis industry right now.
Oh, there we go. I knew we'd get there eventually.
Uh, so all of those companies have like a lot of cash, and the banks don't want to take that cash. So, and they want to invest in marketing and promo and stuff. So, you know, and I've got a medical card, so I'll do like bartering and shit where we like trade product for labor and stuff like that. I even have a client that pays all of my expenses and then just like trades me product for labor, so it's kind of a cool situation. But yeah, like that's like it's such a booming market that and it's like you sell shirts to a band and they take them on tour and they sell them and slowly you start seeing people wear them and like it it may get back to you that I printed, but probably not.
Yeah.
Uh, in the cannabis industry, though, especially since I have like, I mean, I don't have like a huge social media platform, but there's like influencers in the cannabis scene here, and they all have like, you know, a couple thousand followers or something. So they all view me as like a big dog and shit. So when I do merch for them, they always tag me in all their shit, and they like tell people that like, no, like somebody local made these at Skaggs, like, and I just get like the people that buy like the retail shirts that I print like for wholesalers are like tagging me in them because they like have some pride that somebody in town printed them.
That's sick.
And it's like really helped me grow really fast because all these people that are like the cannabis influencers, especially, they are all following and followed by all the people that, you know, produce all of the products, grow all of the products, like all the dispensaries, and they're all like slowly but surely coming back to me. And one of my clients is like one of the biggest extract companies in Oklahoma. So like every time I do a drop for them, I inevitably get, you know, more business through that, just because, you know, they go to a dispensary and drop off like 100 t-shirts for their customers and their staff, and they're like, who did these for you? And they're like, oh,
Yeah.
Scott did them. And then I get a DM from them, and
Yeah.
it's kind of cool. Like I've been really busy, but it's been a total shift in like the business that I'm used to.
Yeah. No, that's sick, man. And I've talked about it a few times on the podcast about how bands need to like focus more on like, you know, creating side hustles for themselves so that they can, you know, have sources of income and branching out and like doing other things like cannabis or whatever it is, you know, not necessarily having to be in 100% music. Like there are other forms of ways, things that you can do to, you know, create income for yourself for sure. So I like that you branched out. But something I wanted to talk to you about, speaking of cannabis, I had a band. I saw this band post something on Facebook the other day about wanting to print grinders for themselves.
Hmm.
And I personally, I believe that it's completely an untapped market. Like there are bands that do it, but it's pretty rare. Like you don't see it very often. The biggest issue, though, in my opinion, is that they are hella expensive to print.
Yeah,
So I
and
just kind of wanted to get your opinion. I personally feel like they're kind of like a novelty item that you can offer it exclusivity on. But I wanted to
yeah.
see what you thought about it.
See that's kind. I mean, and that's the thing. Like the cannabis industry is very similar to the music industry
Yeah,
in like the fan aspect, because
yeah,
there's all different kinds of consumers. Like there's people that are like recovering drug addicts that are using cannabis because they're not using heavy drugs or in lieu of heavy drugs. There's people that just casually use cannabis. There's people that use it medically. There's people that are like Bob Marley stoner. There's people that are like, you know, super professional, but they smoke at night. Like there's just so much diversity, and there's still a stigma, you know, in the country and stuff, and it's dissipating, but it's just like, I'm sorry, I'm kind of getting off track. What was the question exactly?
no, you're good. I'm just curious your opinion on like bands printing
Oh,
grinders.
grinders. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, wow, I'm really getting out there.
It's all right, man. I like those conversations that go all over the place.
Right. um, like because it's such a diverse thing, I feel like, you know, just because you smoke weed doesn't necessarily mean that you'd be like into a grinder. Like me, I'm particularly like I like fine extracts, I like fine solventless hash rosin. Like I have like nice quartz and like, you know, nice pieces and things that like I think are nice, you know. And there's some people that like they smoke out of plastic, or like they only rip backwoods, or like you know, or even if people do use a grinder, like there's people that they'll only use a piece of shit plastic grinder, or they'll only use like a Santa Cruz shredder or something, you know. So I think that you're right that it's like it is kind of a novelty thing. That being said, though, like I've like kind of like I had a T-shirt design for us like that we haven't released. That's kind of like pot themed, and I've had like the idea to do like grinders or like dabbers or like, you know, things like that, like to appeal to like the demographic of our fans I know that do smoke, because I talk to them. But
Yeah.
It's definitely like a novelty thing. It'd just be like, oh wow, like they know that I
Yeah.
smoke and they smoke, so they want to have it, or something like
Yeah.
that. But we'd have to have like a connection for them to want to. I don't think like people would just see it and be like, oh, that's sick, I want that.
Yeah. No, I feel that. It's definitely one of those things that like this guy's kind of trial and error, I guess. I don't know. I think it
Totally.
take some time to figure out exactly like what market it works for and all that. But I saw one band at one point that had them, and I was like, yo, that's fucking sick. I want to say it was Carnifex.
Yeah,
So
and see, I could see a Carnifex logo like
yeah,
embossed and shit into it, and that would be sick as fuck because it's all
yeah,
like death metal and like
yeah,
that even like appeals to a wider demographic than just their band because like there's like fucking hip hop people that are just crazy about that like aesthetic and
yeah,
I don't know, it's
absolutely.
just like universal in some aspects.
Yeah, 100%, man. Cool. So let's go ahead and start wrapping this up. I like to end every interview with one specific question, and that is if you could give a piece of advice to a new hustler out there, someone who is just trying to break into the scene, what would it be?
Uh, if you're trying to like really hustle, like don't even think about what money is coming out of what you're doing. Think about what you can afford to sustainably put into it, and rather than looking about what's coming out, like work on find like making what you're I'm sorry I'm getting off, but like making what your efforts like concise and focused because it's really easy to just like throw a bunch of shit at the wall and like see what sticks, but like it's a whole nother thing to like take a look at what sticks and analyze it and then refocus your efforts to focus on what sticks and like making that the big thing instead of just like 10% of what you threw at the wall, you know.
Yeah,
um, it's all about you can't just do the same thing over and over again and expect it to work the same way. Like, you know, I've been a band for 10 years. Like we've done MySpace to Facebook,
yeah,
Facebook, Twitter, Twitter to Instagram. We've done iTunes digital downloads and physicals to streaming. Like, you know, like things will change, like, and
yeah,
things are always going to change. And if you think that what you did this time is going to work next time just because it worked this time. It's not. Like you got to continually be willing to reinvent yourself and reinvent the wheel so that you can continue to make an impact and continue to broaden your audience.
yeah, 100%, dude. I think that like you're saying, throwing shit at the wall and just kind of expecting it to stick is not necessarily the best way to go about it. Like I can say for sure, I I tried a bunch of different things before I finally stumbled on the Music Hustlers podcast. And when I finally decided, okay, this is it. Like now, I've been doing it for a year and a half. Like this is my job, you know. Um, but like until then, like, or before then, I was like, what am I gonna do, you know? But it definitely helps to like find that one thing that you're like, okay, this is how I want to do it. This is what's gonna happen, rather than throwing, everything at the wall and being like, oh, let's see what happens. Um,
Totally. And you get to like deconstruct all these different people like through
oh,
interview
dude,
and like you ultimately like are the victor because you get all of everybody's perspective and knowledge, you know, like
yeah.
together combined with your own
Hmm.
perspective. Because
Yeah.
it's really cool. Like I love listening to podcasts because you really just you get to see somebody that you think you know and like you kind of you get a glimpse into seeing how they tick. And I end up every time I watch like a podcast or listen to a podcast, I always end up finding that I never knew anything about that person. Like, you know, it's like you learn so much more about them, but you
Yeah.
realize like you really have no idea. Like it just like that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I feel that, man, 100%. Podcasts allow for like people to kind of judge a personality a little deeper, and like you're saying, I definitely get multiple perspectives. I love what I do, man. It's cool to be able to like
I
talk
can
to these
tell.
musicians and understand what their workflow is. And I've learned so much doing this. It's not even funny, man.
That's
Um,
awesome.
but yeah, cool, man. So where can they find you? What's your plugs?
Uh, I am Skaggs SK4GGS, the number four. on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that. And my band Outline in Color is Outline in Color, no spaces, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, outlineincolor.com, and outlineincolor.store for merch.
Nice. You got a website and everything. You guys are classy. All right. Well, Skaggs, thanks for talking to me, man. I appreciate it.
Really, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, dude. I'll catch you later. All right.
See ya. Have a good one.
You too, brother.